Step 2 in our project with Rashawn for the Bridgeton Beacon, sponsored in part by the Cumberland County Cultural and Heritage Commission, features the Riverside Renaissance Center in Millville, New Jersey. So at this point, we've identified the topic. The topic is wonderful because there's multiple art galleries within this single location, which allows us to essentially kill multiple birds with one stone, a single visit with a single small budget, and we'll be able to focus on multiple topics within that building. So the steps we have to face now pre-production are, A, we have to do a little bit of research, and then B, we have to coordinate the actual visit. Now, there are some really cool tools for research nowadays, and I'll give you one example. One of the first things I'll want to do is go to Microsoft Copilot. Microsoft Copilot is sort of their version of ChatGPT. It's a chat bot that has an up-to-date database, whereas ChatGPT, the database of information, is not up to date. So we'll go to Copilot and say, I'm producing media content about the Riverside Renaissance Center for the Arts in Millville, New Jersey. Please list topics, subjects, people, or events for an interesting and informative project. Cite sources with URLs. And that's it. So I'll submit this and see what we get in return. Now that's great. Now what we've done here, because I'm not an expert on the Riverside Renaissance Center for the Arts, Rashawn is not an expert for the Riverside Renaissance Center for the Arts, and neither is Meg, who's going to be doing the interview. So what we've done here is we've created a brief for everyone involved that will allow them at their fingertips a very quick reference to get an idea of what this is all about. And also for Meg, it might be a source of questions or insights that might come up during an interview or a walkthrough at the location. And as you can see, we've got a little response up here that says, hey, that's fantastic. Here's some information that could make your media content engaging and informative. And then it goes right into topics and subjects. Gives us the history and mission, which is probably also on their website. Talks about their Third Friday events. Talks about community impacts and educational programs that they run. It gets into some local artists, art instructors, and community leaders. And then it gets into events that they run, from their Third Friday receptions to special exhibitions to activities within the community. You'll see also we've got 4 different URL references that they've provided, as well as a map. So just by asking that question of Microsoft Bing Copilot, I now have a project brief for Meg, who will be hosting this video walkthrough. And I also have a project brief for Rashawn, who will be on site with Meg, filling the role of the producer. So this is just one example of how you can use technology and how keeping a list of tools like Microsoft Bing Copilot in your back pocket allows you to be very productive in a very short period of time. And this is another tool that we use. This is genealogybank.com. Genealogy Bank keeps archives of old newspapers and publications that allow you to do research, very powerful research, on topics that would otherwise be difficult to access. There's not so much digital media related to 100 or 200-year-old information. You know, it's only now that these things are being sort of digitized and brought online. And Genealogy Bank is one of these great services that allows us to look up news from 100 years ago, look up news from 200 years ago, dig into the stories, and create, again, a base of information. Now, this leans more towards, obviously, history projects, and this current project is an art project. But these are just examples of how you can quickly and powerfully collect some information about the project you're working on, and that doesn't have to be a full-time job. It doesn't have to be something that takes you a great deal of time and effort. You don't have to know these specific tools, but you have to know that there are tools available that allow you to give your host or give your production team a base of information on the topics you're producing quickly and effectively. So we've looked at Bing Copilot, fantastic, way up to date, up to the minute, which is why we use it versus ChatGPT. And then at the opposite end of the spectrum is this example, Genealogy Bank, which it might be up to the minute, but the great value I see in this is that it's carrying 200-year-old information, 250-year-old information in instances. So a powerful tool, and the production staff has access. But for anyone who's in the business or doing production, simply understanding that these tools are out there should be a huge part of your value in the production process, or at least a huge asset to the production process in general. Now, finally, and I don't want to seem like I'm stating the obvious, but you should definitely check out the website of the subject of your topic. So if we're producing media about the Riverside Renaissance Center for the Arts, it behooves everyone involved in the project to go to the website for the Riverside Renaissance Center for the Arts, see what they're all about. By the way, this is one of the websites that was cited as a source of when we had Bing package up information for us. This is one of the places that they brought information from. So I didn't want to leave this out. As obvious as it may sound, you certainly want to peruse the website of the subject or topic of your media project. But what you don't have to do, because of the step we illustrated in Bing, is you don't have to sit here and take notes and create your sort of dossier or portfolio about the project by hand. We've already done that. But it's worth a look, as are any of the other sources of information that were cited by Bing, which in this instance there were 4. So this addresses half of what we're doing at this stage of the project, which is we need to schedule and set up a time to go, but we also need to create a base of information so when we do go, we can produce a story that's deeply informative. We don't want them to have to explain the very basics to us. What is an art gallery? We want to dig right into the deep stuff. So if we know what they have going on, if we know artists who are involved in ways that the RRCA is connected to the community, that'll lead to educated conversation and question and answers. So didn't want to leave out the website of your actual topic or subject. You'll see here, they've got all the information. This is a good website, lots of info. A lot of websites aren't great though, which is where that Bing step in the process comes in so handy. But that should be enough. Between up-to-the-date research on Bing, archive of research, you should have a base of knowledge that you and the on-screen talent needs to produce a high-quality production. Outside of that, you'll want to look up the hours and the phone number, give them a call and say, hey, Riverside Renaissance Center for the Arts, we're sending Meg and Rashawn over to do a piece on you that's funded by the Cumberland County Cultural and Historical Commission. So what's your availability? Who are the best people to talk to? And that's the very next thing I'm going to do is get this scheduled. And that's it. That's sort of where we are in step 2 of the project. Scheduling, who are we going to talk to? When can we come visit you? On this hand, and on this hand, collecting behind the scenes a bunch of information so that when we show up, we're educated enough on the topic to do a important, meaningful walkthrough or interview, as opposed to making them give us information like, oh, here's our mission, here's when we're open, here's who we had last. If we already know that, we can ask them questions like, I see you've done these exhibitions in the past, what do you have planned? It's a better question than, what do you do? Walk into a project with enough information, A, to respect the topic and the people you're going to be meeting with, but also to lead them into deeper conversations. We don't want to go to a building with several art galleries and have them explain what art galleries are. If we show up with no info and no questions, that's the type of conversation you're going to have. But if you show up with good information, you'll have way better questions, and that's what the step of the project is for. It's pre-planning, but it's very powerful, and as you can see, it took no time whatsoever. You just need to know where to go, have a login, or know how to give an instruction to Bing. So it created a couple different subjects, and it created bullet points under both of those subjects that allow us to be educated on this topic. So there we go. That's where we are in phase 2 with Rashawn and this project that is funded in part by the Cumberland County Cultural and Historic Commission. So we're going to get this scheduled on the books, coordinate with Rashawn, Meg, and the Riverside Renaissance Center, and move on to step 3 and do some actual recording and production, which is the fun stuff.